Today. My name is Richard Guth. I'm the Vice President of Marketing for Transera. And today you will be seeing the first public showing of our Customer Engagement Analyzer 2.0, which is a product that we announced last summer and released, and we've made significant advancements with it too in the past year. The presenters today, in addition to me, after I go, I will be introducing Amit Verma, who's our Director of Product Management. And he will give you an overview of the Customer Engagement Analyzer and what its purpose is, what the design concepts and plans were, and the market and customer requirements we were trying to address with the product. And then after that, we will hand it over to Ramesh, who will be doing the majority of the webinar, giving us a live interactive demo of the Customer Engagement Analyzer. So the slideware at the beginning is only going to be for a few minutes, and then we'll be passing it over to Ramesh, where you'll be seeing the actual product. But before I hand it over to Amit, I want to give you a very brief two-slide overview of what Transera does. We are in the business to improve the performance of contact centers. And our target market, the people that we work with and find the most value from us, are contact centers that have, say, multiple systems where they need to integrate data and analyze it, or have multiple sites that they need to get visibility on and manage in a holistic way, or they have multiple outsourcers where they want to be able to manage those outsourcers in real time and make decisions in an agile fashion in terms of where their calls go and how they motivate and improve the performance of their outsourcers. I'll give you three examples. Guppy Ranker is a customer of ours. They have 3,000 dedicated agents and about 3,000 shared agents. And they use, up and down about 20 outsourcers and handle 18 million contacts a year. As a result of working with us over the past few years, we've been able to help them increase their sales by 10%, decrease their abandon rates up to 60%. They recognize $1 million in annual savings as a result of us, and it's all from the fact that we provide them global visibility across their sites and outsourcers. Office Depot is another customer of ours, 2,500 agents, 12 outsourcers, about 20 million contacts a year. As a result of working with us, they were able to decrease their average speed of answer by 52%. I believe they do it under 10 seconds these days. They've decreased their abandon rate by 59%. I believe that's under 1%, like 0.5%. And they recognize $3 million in annual savings as a result of using us to manage their multiple sites and outsourcers. And Wirefly is a smaller company. They had 500 agents, 3 outsourcers, handled about 2 million contacts a year. But as a result of working with us, they were able to increase sales 5%, increase agent productivity 25%, and they saw an ROI from our full implementation in less than 5 months. And they were able to ramp sites and outsourcers up and down as necessary for a very agile contact center. And the way we do this with our customers is we take the data from the various systems they have, CRMs, ACDs, IVRs. We put it into a customer engagement repository, which Amit will talk about in far more detail than I'm going to right now. And once it's in that repository, we have the Customer Engagement Analyzer, which Ramesh will demo, and where we do some analysis of the data that is in that repository. And then we have a data science team on staff that provides analytics as a service, where we also work with our customers to look at the data and do some predictive and prescriptive analytics. We help you with agent scoring based upon their performance. We validate any hypotheses you might have about where your performance is coming from or not coming from. And then once we say, okay, maybe if we change this about the operations of the call center, or we prioritize customers this way, or prioritize agents receiving calls this way, we think we can improve the performance. Before we do that, we do simulation for you, so you can validate that before you implement any changes. And then we help you implement those changes, such as the next best action for a call or customer, how you manage your queues, what offers you give people, and the resolution for them by automating and putting the data back into your contact center systems and changing the way they behave so that the contact center behaves in the best possible way to optimize every customer interaction. And with that, and today we're going to be focusing on the first two, turning the data into information in the repository and then analyzing that with the Customer Engagement Analyzer. And to go into a little bit more detail about those two things before we go to the demo, I'm going to hand it over to Amit Verma, our Director of Product Management.
Great. Thanks, Rich. Hi, everybody. We are very excited to announce our Customer Engagement Analyzer 2.0 application. So this application has been focused on providing interactive analytics, collaborative analytics, and essentially making the user more productive when they're using the application. So touching upon the problem for a typical contact center. So typically a contact center has multiple applications which are essentially working or touching upon a customer interaction. So these interactions, these systems are can be categorized into three high-level segments: the contact management application, which is essentially your ACD, your channel-specific, interaction-specific applications, the agent management applications, such as a workforce management. And then within the workforce management, you can have the quality management. You can also run speech analytics, see how the interaction went. And then the agents typically use a CRM system, which typically captures the interaction in terms of what the outcome was, whether a knowledge base was used. And essentially, each of these systems has a specific view of the customer interaction. But the problem is, and each of these systems has great reports, but the reports are very specific to the information that each of these systems has access to. So the problem is, the ACD system, the report will just focus on what was the average hold time, what was the average answer time, and you can focus on all those metrics and improve them. But you will have no idea in terms of what was the outcome of the interaction, which is typically coming from the CRM information. So now the CRM reports will give you information in terms of what your conversion rate was, but you will not see how many calls were abandoned. So clearly, you are not getting a full picture in what is happening in your contact center for all the different interactions. So essentially, this is the problem that we solve using our application. So the first thing that we do to solve this problem is we pull the data from all these different systems which touch a customer interaction. These are the ACD system, the IVR system, your channel-specific systems, your CRM system, your workforce management system, and we pull the data in. And to make this process simple, we can absorb the files or the data from all these systems in any format. So if you can give us just CSV files, which are essentially just outputs of specific reports within your specific system, we can absorb it. And since we know where the data is coming from, we can then map it to our universal data dictionary. And we are essentially based on the big data platform. And what that means is you can essentially add another data source on the fly. You don't have to go about making schema changes. You don't have to go about re-architecting your solution. And you can change your CRM solution on the fly. So if you're using, say, right now, and now you want to use Salesforce, without any problems, you can just change that system on the fly, and we'll be able to just absorb that information very easily, no problems. So essentially, that's what we do. We pull the data from all these different systems, and we stitch the data together in the cloud. And what we have is an end-to-end view of the customer interaction. So what that means is when the customer came in and the IVR system had a specific view or a specific record for that application, we pull that from the IVR system. And then we match that with the record which is coming in from the ACD system. And subsequently, we pull the information for that specific interaction. We pull in the information from the CRM system. And we create an end-to-end view of the customer interaction. And using our algorithm, the multi-source linking algorithm, we are essentially able to form this entire end-to-end view and create a unified view of what the customer experience was and what the customer outcome was and how the interaction went. So once we have this data in the cloud, we then provide the user to gain insights from this data. And essentially, what this means is all the fields that are coming in from all the different systems are available to the user to be added into a visualization. And you'll be seeing more of this in the demo today. So what this means is you can pull in a field which is coming from your ACD system, in addition to a field coming in from a CRM system, in addition to seeing what the attribute of that agent is coming in from your workforce management system, and create a consolidated view of using the data that you have access to. And then you can segment the information. And segmentation in easy to understand way is essentially comparing the different groups. So if you want to see how my agents are performing, you'll create that as a segment. And your profiling elements are how you, what your KPIs are. So this is where you are comparing the different segments against and essentially finding if there is a correlation in terms of your performance versus the different segments. And this is what the analyzer provides. It's an easy tool to use where you can gain insights and see if there's any trend in terms of certain segments performing better than other segments, which can essentially be exploited and can then be put in the intelligence platform or the intelligence layer, and you can essentially gain advantage from that intelligence. And another feature that we have added in this release is the pivot functionality. So essentially what that means is you create a data set, you define your default segmentation variables, you define your default profiling variables, and then you can essentially pivot the information across and then gain insights if there is a specific correlation for specific segments. And essentially, it's a very powerful and easy to use tool to gain insights. And then for the output of the visualizations, we support tables, pie charts, area charts. Another feature we have is the time motion chart. So you can essentially choose a KPI, say your orders or your conversion ratio, and you can see how that varies over time. And essentially, what that does, it validates your hypothesis in terms of was this a one-time phenomenon, or is this a phenomenon that's happening over and over time, which can be exploited. And another feature that we have added in this release is the heat maps. So using the heat map functionality, which will be more shown more in the demo today, the user doesn't have to essentially spend much time identifying what the outliers are. And you can easily spot where are your less calls or where a particular metric is low and where a particular metric is high. So collaboration is another feature that we have added in this release. And with this, a specific user can create a query, a data set, which is essentially your date range followed by the filters for the different segments. And the user can define the default segmentation and profiling variables and also the output of the visualization. And then this user can share it with all the other users. And all these different users can then gain advantage of this insight that was gained by this particular user for a specific data set. And to add to that, we also have a custom KPI library. So if a specific KPI is not available in the system, an example is conversion ratio, which is your orders, which is a variable coming in from your CRM system, to the calls, which is a variable coming in from your ACD system. This can be created as a custom KPI, and this is a very simple example I just talked about, but I mean, you can essentially create very complex KPIs, first call resolution, and so on. And this can essentially be shared across the different users as well. And a company can essentially create KPIs that are meaningful to them and to their business. So we create a very flexible solution which can essentially be used across the board and across the organization to essentially gain advantage of the insights.
And I want to point out that that last word there is APIs, and I have to take, it's supposed to be KPIs, and I have to take complete responsibility for not catching that typo prior to the webinar today. Go ahead, Amit.
All right, so with that said, I'm going to pass this on to Ramesh, and Ramesh is our Vice President and Chief Architect. He and his team were instrumental in creating the solution, and essentially, I'll let Ramesh take it on from here.
Ramesh, go ahead and unmute yourself. It says you are self-muted. And go ahead and start talking as I pass the screen over to you, Ramesh.
Thank you, Rich, and hello, everyone. My name is Ramesh Bobba. I'm the Chief Architect here at Transera. Today, we're going to be going to look at a demo of how the analyzer can help a business understand and improve their performance, just as soon as Rich hands over the control to me. Okay, thank you, Rich. So before we get started, the business under study today is a global B2C company that upsells accessories to customers opportunistically during customer service contacts. Customer contact and interaction management data has already been collected and connected from multiple systems and sites into our customer engagement repository. The objective of the exploration today is to understand the factors impacting performance with a view to improving performance through predictive analytics. So the way we laid out the demo today is we're going to first look at focus on understanding the business at a high level by exploring what contact types originate from which location. Then we're going to move on to focusing on understanding which contact types, locations, and vendors are contributing to the business performance. And then we're going to close out by looking at agent level performance to see which agents are performing with which vendors with a view to improve aggregate business performance for the business. So just given that this is a multinational global company with contacts originating from different countries, let's start by understanding where the contacts are originating from. And to do this, I'm going to create a visualization on the fly of an analysis by dragging and dropping the country and then drag as my segmentation variable, and then contacted, which is a count of contacts. I'll do a sum, give it a name, save it, and I just want to look at it across all the dates.
And I want to point out, Ramesh, one of the things we talked about earlier was the fact that you've got data from multiple systems here, and on the left-hand side you can see there's data coming from the ACD and the CRM.
Thank you, Rich. And I'm going to do this for the exact month of May. I'm going to save this, and when I execute this, I'm going to see a visualization here. And then, as you can see here the visualization shows all the countries that this business works in and generates contacts from, and the number of contacts. As you can see, different countries produce different rates of contacts. Now you can look at this data in multiple different ways in our system. For instance, as Amit pointed out, you can look at this data as a heat map to quickly identify what your outliers are. And you can see United States is a very active country, contact generating country. South Korea seems to be fairly active. Japan, India, China, Brazil, so on and so forth. You can also look at this same data as a bar chart. Again, as you can see, United States is the biggest generator of contacts, followed by China, and so on and so forth. You can also look at this data by switching things around. And this is all happening interactively. So as you can see,
Ramesh, that was looking at a data set with millions of records, right? I mean, that was amazingly fast.
that is correct. We are looking at about 323,000 records. And it computed in 2 seconds. That is correct. And now we can look at this as a pie. And again, you see the same results, which is US, an outlier, followed by China, and so on and so forth. Now we're going to focus on understanding the business at a high level by exploring what contact types originate from which country. To do that, we are going to generate a visualization, an analysis data set that has the channels that, the media types that we are interested in, the locations from where the contacts are getting generated, the partners, the vendors who are supplying the agents, the teams under these vendors that are handling the contacts, and the specific agents that are handling the contacts. And on the profiling side, we're going to look at the contacts coming in, number of offers being made. Given that this is a contact center solution where offers are made on the fly when contacts come in for customer service, we're going to look at how the offers are being made. And then offer rate is a formula, like as Amit alluded to, which is offer count divided by the contact count. And then if you want to share this formula, you just do a save, and then you click OK.
And this is an example. This is an example where you're essentially taking a metric from one system and essentially creating a formula, a complex formula with metrics coming in from multiple systems, and now you have a complex KPI which is meaningful to your business.
Yeah, as you can see now, this formula is available in the formula section for all the users that have permissions. And then we are going to look at order counts, and then the conversion rate, which is again another formula, which is order count divided by the offer count. So here is an executed analysis of that data set that we just created. Here what we're looking at is the countries that we're interested in and the media types that are getting generated in each of these countries. And given that in our previous analysis, there are a handful of countries that are of utmost importance because the rest of the countries generate very little contacts, we're going to focus on the countries that generate most volume. So I'm going to, on the fly, filter out all the other countries and focus on the countries that we are interested in. Australia, Brazil.
This is a very important feature here because, often when you find dealing with multiple data sets and big data and, months or years worth of history records, you've got just too much information to process it and to do any real analysis. So to be able to interactively filter the sets and look at it from different perspectives into subsegments is very, very important.
As you can see on the bottom right-hand corner, we are looking at close to 500,000 records right now. So now, as you can see, I just filtered out all the other countries, and I'm focusing on a handful of countries that generate most of the contact volumes. So, and one of the first things that become apparent when you're looking at this is email and telephone calls account for most, if not all, of the contact volumes. Chat, web, and social media are minuscule at best. So here is an insight for the business to say maybe there is an opportunity here to deflect some of these contacts to web self-service or chat. You can also see from the data that China and India, for instance, most of their contact volume is telephone calls. So another opportunity for the business to maybe divert some of these calls to mobile self-service. You can, again, like Amit pointed out, you can look at the data with heat maps to see what's going on with our data. For instance, this this country, United States, has 134,000 records, but only 44,000 offers have been made. The next thing we're going to focus on is to understand by contact type and location and vendors who is contributing to the business in which way. And to understand that, we need to understand how are the vendors being used by this business in the global sense. And here is an analysis of partners and the countries that, again, we are interested in. I have gone ahead, taken the freedom to filter them out in the interest of time. And here are the countries, and here on the row axis, column axis, and vendors on the row axis. And as you can see, the distribution of contacts to vendors is regional. For instance, Defiant Tech only takes Israel's contacts. Divergence takes most of North America's contacts. Hyclotech, for instance, takes mostly Indian and South Korean contacts. So what this tells us is any comparisons that we are going to do should be limited to within regional performance because of any variations in people calling in.
Right. And to add to what Ramesh has shown, essentially what you're seeing over here is only possible because we are getting the data from both the workforce management system and your vendor systems, and then marrying that with the ACD system. And because of that, you can gain all these insights, which were previously not possible. Earlier, you would just see the total number of calls coming in, or you will just see specific information to a vendor. But here, you are able to gain complex insights because you have the full visibility on your entire data set.
Right. And given that now we are looking at regional, again, I filtered out all the other countries other than the countries that we are interested in. And now I'm looking at by partner, how are they handling the different channel types. And as soon as I created this analysis, I can see clearly telephones are distributed across all the vendors, but chat, for instance, is only being handled by a single vendor. This is an insight for the company. They can maybe distribute some of these chats to other vendors. And same thing with email. While 3 different vendors are handling emails, one Divergence is handling a lion's share of them, and River BPO and Service Pro are handling a small portion of it. While at the same time, if you see, the conversion rates for Service Pro is higher than Divergence. And if we focus on telephone calls and do a heat map again, we see that there is variation within the vendors for both offer rates as well as conversion rates. This is an opportunity for the business to work with the vendors both to work with vendors to improve the offer and conversion rate, and also take advantage of this variation and maybe send more volumes to vendors that are converting better. The next visual analysis is, again, unique to our Transera offering, where we're looking at the same data that we looked at earlier, but now we're more narrowly focused on telephone calls and more specifically United States. And then we're looking at on a daily basis how what do the numbers, profiling variables, tell us. And now we're going to look at this information as the motion chart, like Amit pointed out. I'm gonna set time as my x-axis and conversion rate, or maybe offer rate, as my y-axis, and then play. And you can see that there is variation across as well as within the vendors from day to day. Now I'm gonna go back and focus on a couple of vendors to see how they perform. I'm going to select divergence and River BPO, and I'm going to trail them to see what does it look like when I plot it. I'm going to click play again. And as you can see, divergence pretty consistently offers at a lower rate than River BPO does. And also their offer rates are pretty erratic, whereas River BPO's offer rates are pretty consistent. Now let's look at how their conversion rates behave as opposed to their offer rates.
And essentially what you're seeing over here is an example of a motion chart. And motion chart, like I said earlier, validates a particular hypothesis. So you can essentially see whether your conversion rate was a specific value one day, was that a fluke, or was that really, is that a trend? And using this, you can see that this is there a specific pattern that can be exploited or not? And that essentially is the real power of the motion charts.
Right. So now I'm going to play this, and one thing that is surprising here is while divergence's offer rates are lower, their conversion rates are consistently higher. So this is an insight for the business to take to the vendors, especially Divergent, and say and work with them to improve their offer rates because they seem to convert better once they offer. The next thing we're going to look at is agent performance, the final piece in our demonstration today. We're going to look at agent level performance. I've gone ahead and taken the freedom of filtering out in a handful of agents that have enough call volumes. And this is another unique analytical analysis that we do, wherein we take intervals of data. We are starting here with the first 100 records. Then we keep increasing the window by 20, but we're going to keep the starting point as the first record. And we keep going until we go through all the records. And then as you can see, most of these, almost all of these agents have over 600 records. So we have enough of a sample size with each of the for each of the agents, so we can be sure that any analysis we are doing on these agents has enough samples. So now we're going to look again at this analysis in a motion chart format. And for the sake of time, I'm going to just select a couple of agents here. I'm going to set trail. And I'm going to use, again, time as my x-axis and conversion rate to see how each of these two agents are converting. I'm going to hit play. And as you can see, at the very beginning of the analysis, their performance is pretty variant. But as time goes and we increase the sample size, we keep adding to the sample size, their performance becomes more consistent and predictable at an individual agent level. So agent performance becomes predictable at an individual level. So that is something that we can take from this analysis. And the second thing that becomes clear is there is variance between agent performance. This agent is performing at 25%, whereas this agent is performing at around 10%. We can take this to our to the next level of scoring and ranking the agents to improve staffing, routing, as well as distribution. So Analyzer enables exploration of business and operational information to discover meaningful insights into business performance. Analyzer, as we saw, allows the validation of these insights on large data sets extracted from customer engagement repository. And then Analyzer insights can then be passed to the advisor or other product suite for ranking and scoring of customers and agents for recommendations of best next actions in real time when we are routing and distributing the calls or contacts. Rich, back to you.
Thank you, Ramesh. That was very, very good. To the audience, I just want to point out, Ramesh was the chief architect, and he led the development of this product. So you were able to see the demo from the horse's mouth, so to speak, today, which is very valuable. We don't get to do that very often because he's usually busy developing product and leading engineers. So what you saw, just to remind you in the demo, is we explored what contact types originate from which locations. Then we looked at which vendors were delivering the best performance from those. And then we drilled down into individual agent performance so that you could figure out how best to impact overall performance. And with that, we've got an opportunity to do Q&A. Let's see, I've got some questions here. Let me see. Okay, here's the first question. We got time for a couple. If we send you hold on a second. I need to. What is it doing? I'm gonna. Okay. We've got some questions here from some folks. We got time for a couple of them. The first one is, if we sent you 2 or 3 of our data sets, how long would it take us? How long would it take you to have a repository ready for us? Amit, why don't you go ahead and answer that question?
So essentially, we work with our customers to pull the data, to integrate it in. So we essentially, there is no simple answer here. We work with the customers to pull the data in. We do have connectors built in which can just absorb the information in from standard applications like Salesforce right now. And if you have an in-house application, we can work with you to pull the data in. But like I said in my presentation, we can absorb the data in any format. So if you can just get us the CSV text files from your data source just by exporting your initial reports, that is the easiest way to get the data in. And once that is in, we can just absorb the data and have that information ready for you to visualize. So an example is if you just have one data source that you want to upload, it is just a matter of minutes where you just upload it and be able to see it fairly quickly.
Thanks, Amit. And there's actually a similar question to that, which is, how much does it cost to get a repository up and running? Well, actually, we are offering a free exploratory data analysis project to folks who attend this webinar today or listen to it on demand. And we're willing, send us 90 days of data from 2 different data sets, and we'll create a repository for you and do some initial analysis so that you can get a sense of, what value you might get out of going forward with this. So feel free to take advantage of that offer by emailing us at analytics@transerainc.com. I've got, here's another question. It says, can you map rank agent performance by media type?
Absolutely, we sure can. I mean, we can either rank your agents across media, or we can go drill down to the agent's performance to a specific channel as well. So some agents might be better over the phone, whereas other agents might be more convincing in converting orders over chat. So we can essentially use the channel, and in our application, essentially to be able to gain that insight, you just put in a filter where you are limiting your interactions to that specific channel type, and then be able to see the agent's performance specific to that channel type. Another option is you can segment by that channel, segment the agent performance across channels, and then you can get a sense in terms of how the agent performance is across media types. So again, the tool is very flexible, yet very powerful to give you the insight that is meaningful to you. Great question.
And I think that Ramesh wants to add something to that question. Ramesh, go ahead.
Yeah, so I just wanted to add to what Amit said for the previous question was no matter how long it takes to get the data, one of the most important things is if we can get one record into our customer engagement repository, that record is immediately available to you for analysis. So we don't waste any time in terms of how long it takes to get the data into your hands. As soon as it's in our hands, it's in your hands.
Thanks, Ramesh. That's great. Here's another one for Ramesh. Once you have an insight created with segments and profiles, can I or someone else then use that and do further sub-segmentations on that same visualization or insight? Ramesh?
You most certainly can. What you're doing when you're creating a data set is you're creating almost a cube so that the end user, whoever is accessing the result of that visualization, that analysis, can play with that data set and further segment the information in that data set. As you might remember, one of the things that when we created the data set with channel, country, partner, agent, and team, we hid some of those segments. We didn't want to see some of those segments. So that is like further segmenting the data.
Thanks, Ramesh. Let's toss this one to Amit. Amit, it says there was a lot of discussion about huge data sets and millions of records and hundreds of thousands of records. What if someone tried to create set up a query that created a huge data set that just ran and ran forever? I mean, how do we prevent someone from doing runaway queries?
Right, so one of the useful features we've added in this release is giving feedback to the user who's creating the visualization on what the data size is. So when on the visualization creation page, there is an information button. The user can essentially create their data sets, put in the filters, and then click on that button, and that'll give you feedback to the user in terms of what the sample data size is, or what the data set size is. So if there are too many records, the user can essentially change the date range or put additional filters. And on the other hand, if the data size is too small, the user can essentially relax some of the filter criteria that have been put into place. So we give the user feedback in terms of what the data size is, and even if there is a use case where the query has to essentially include a lot of records. It is essentially a service in the cloud, and we are the service which is essentially running those queries, and it's just a matter of time for the user. That is an investment which is going to essentially be the only detrimental factor when having a large query set.
Thanks, Amit. That's very valuable. So, okay, I think we have time for one more here. It's almost 10 till. Let's send this to Ramesh. Ramesh, you showed, it says, you showed creating a custom formula or KPI by using data from multiple data sets. Could I share that with other people in my company, or try to set it up in a way that it's a standard KPI that everyone in the company is able to use? Ramesh?
You most certainly can. Yes, you most certainly can. As I have demonstrated earlier, all you have to do in order to export your formula to other users and to share them is to do a save and give it a name, a unique name. The name has to be unique, and as long as the names are unique, you can save them and then share them with other users who have permissions of using the analyzer.
Okay, thank you very much. That's all the time we have, but there are a handful more questions out there, so we know who asked them, so we will make sure that we email you individually and get the answers back to you. And if you're wondering what you might want to do next after this, if you want to get more information, there's several next steps we recommend you take. You're able to like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter. We have a blog that we update every week about what we're doing and some learnings that we do and insights that we're learning. So it's a very good educational tool to help you keep up on what people are doing with customer engagement analytics. If you'd like a custom demo for you or your team or a separate meeting, feel free to email us at analytics@transerainc.com, and I get that personally, and our sales team gets it, and we'll make sure that someone responds to you immediately. And if you're just looking for more information to educate yourself or your team, go to our website, transerainc.com, in the Insight section, where we have a variety of white papers by Ventana Research, Aberdeen, and some of our staff, including our SVP of Products and Solutions and our CEO, that talk about some of the thought leadership that's going on in the customer engagement area and the market research that's being done that shows how companies can improve their performance by doing customer engagement analytics. And again, I mentioned the blog, and we will be making this, we did record this webinar, so we will be sending you a thank you email later today with a link to the recording that you can listen to again or share with your colleagues and peers if you like. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope you have a good Thursday and Friday and a great weekend.